I had come to see my brother. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in Pemba. So I'm out of town just doing a family errand there. But I
Mm.
should be back in Osaka tomorrow morning. So I'll be heading
Oh,
back
I
in
see.
early. Yes.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I see that Given has given us chance to jump live now. Quickly, um,
Mhm.
one of the things that I would want us to cater to today, particularly, I know that we have a pending assessment of our video. I'd want you to
Mhm.
give me a breakdown of what you noticed as you listened to
Mhm.
yourself. What are the key pointers that you took note of, both good, especially good? I want to hear yourself talking about the things that you're proud of yourself of doing. And then I would want you to
Okay.
also highlight the things that you feel you need to be able to handle a bit better. And then we'll jump into a very, very important question that I want you to tackle, the one that I shared with you. And so
Mhm.
go ahead, give me your review of our session when you were answering the questions. What do you think? What are the things you noticed?
Okay. Let me just turn off the alarm.
Okay.
Where is it? Oh, goodness. Can't find it. It's hidden. There it is. Okay. I've turned
All
off. I'll
right.
start with the negatives.
All right.
Yeah, I'll start with the negatives. What I noticed is that there was too much repetition.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that some sentences, I would say it in this way. Then the next time I come to repeat the same thing, but say it in a different way. And so I thought that was eating up time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing I noticed. The second thing is that I think certain points I wasn't able to elaborate them too well. I was feeling like they lacked too much the important flesh that needed to be there. You have a skeleton and you're patching up, but maybe you are leaving out some veins, some biceps. Is it biceps or what? You are
It
missing
is.
something. You are saying the correct thing, but leaving out the key issue on the point that you have left.
Mm-hmm.
Then I also noticed on my presence is that in terms of voice projection, that was okay. But I noticed that as I sat, I could start like I'm firm, seated like this. But as I get deeper into the conversation, I'm like, either I don't know if I'm pulling back, but I come to lean like towards one side. So I felt that that wasn't good enough. I should take one position, which is a position of occupying the room, and it should show confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three things that I picked to be my negatives. In terms of positives, first and foremost, the voice projection was okay. That's the first one. The second one, I was able to use the frameworks.
You noticed
And
that, right?
yes, I noticed that I was using the frameworks, and even in instances where I got lost, like I could lose my thoughts, I would quickly get back because of the framework. It would like draw me back into the circle I'm in, and I was also able to to connect my profession and my career. I was able to do that. I was also able to um, support the information that I have given. Yes, those were my positives.
I want to lean a bit on the negatives that you've mentioned. The first thing you
Mhm.
spoke about is the fact that there was repetition. Okay. Now, every presentation that we have the opportunity to engage in, the agenda must be clear from the beginning. So one of the things that we spoke about first and foremost is that you're making an impression when you walk into the room. All right, you're making an, which means you define and dictate the kind of impression that you want to leave beyond the words you say, and the way you carry yourself. You must have predetermined that when I walk out of the room, this is the sense I want to leave them with. And so everything that happens in the room has that foundation. That one, I want to leave them with a sense of the fact that Barbara really took over the room. She was confident, she knew her stuff. So that's, as you're walking in, that's the mindset you're walking in with. One of the things that is a learning hack when you are dealing with individuals is that repetition is king. Repetition is king, meaning if you start, or rather, the question that you are given in the beginning, introduce yourself. You establish the premise of, remember how we spoke about the introduction. The first thing is you speak about how you got to be where you are. Remember that? How you say
Yeah.
that I began my journey here, and that how I navigated to the place where I am like this. So I'm in the room. So the first thing that you're showing them that you deserve to be in the room. The next thing, you speak to the credentials and the capacities that have brought you to that place, to that conclusion. How have you landed in the fact that you belong in the room? Yes, you've told me that I've worked for ZRA for 2 decades. You've told me that I started at a low level position, and because of my ingenuity, because of my learning, I've gone to the place where I am now. So you speak about your credentials, you speak about your capacities, you speak about your wins in that introduction. And so just because you have tackled something in your introduction does not mean that it should not appear anywhere else in conversation.
Okay.
So imagine with me that in your introduction you mentioned that I have I have 2 decades of experience in in ZRA, and so, and therefore I am able to navigate the systems that exist, both past, present, and therefore I'm uniquely positioned to forecast the future where these systems can be a bit more efficient, right? You get to another question where they are talking about maybe problem solving. You can refer back, because of my 2 decades in experience navigating the systems of ZRA, of course, I have had to interact and to deal with individuals at different levels. First and foremost, I have had superiors with whom I might not have agreed, and we might have disagreed on certain things. And I've also, because of my growth and trajectory, have juniors and teams that I've led where we have not agreed. All right. So I've brought in my 2 decades again. And if I can bring my 2 decades, because you know that time and experience establishes you as a leader and someone who is relevant, you bring it as much as possible. Remember, because you have a foundation that you're establishing, there's a picture that you want to paint, and there's an impression you want to leave. That Barbara has got the right kind of experience. Barbara was in charge when she walked into the room, and Barbara is the one that we want to give this opportunity to. And so, because of that, repetition, yes, you wouldn't want to be saying the same things multiple times where there's no impact. But if you have an agenda to state, so for instance, one of the, I'll give you an example of how you lay an egg as a presenter going forward when you're dealing with an audience. If you're going to talk about the fact that it is your turn, for instance, this is the title of my presentation, that Barbara, it is your turn, or rather, I'm talking to a crowd, that this is your turn. I might begin by saying, life is in seasons and in times, and each and every individual has the opportunity to shine, but that opportunity is restricted to their turn. Scripture says it like this: time and chance happens to them all. And so I want you to understand that even though it has happened for other people, now is your turn. And then I'll say a few words after that and come back to say, remember, it is now your turn. Before long, by the time I've been able to throw this statement in this presentation, I can even come back to the end of the presentation and say, ladies and gentlemen, all I've been trying to say to you today is simply, it is, and the crowd will finish it off for you, your turn. Why? Because repetition has established that idea, right?
Okay.
And so there must be
Yeah.
key elements. So please go ahead.
Okay. I think I'm getting what you're saying. And
Mhm.
what you're trying to say is that because of this experience that you have, it has
Mm.
given you leverage. Okay.
Yes.
Because of the experience, you have this leverage that other people don't have. So emphasis is okay. But
Mhm.
the repetition I was referring to is on one question, I talk about um, I'm trying to find, like, I talk about a strategy. I'm saying that for me to get to town, like that example you gave, for me to get to town, I had to go through Ibex Hill, find myself in Woodlands, then this, and I took this route because of this. Then I would say it's quite all right. Then before I could submit or in the sentence again, I'm still talking about passing through Ibex Hill when I've already presented that I'm going to pass through Ibex Hill. So I'm
I
saying
see
like,
what I
yes.
see. Okay, that's interesting.
Mhm.
So generally, that's usually sometimes when you are thinking and your mind is caught in a loop. You find you say it like this, and you're trying to kind
Mhm.
of gather your in the moment. Sometimes when you're talking, you find that
Mhm.
you're saying something. So, like I
Mhm.
said, one of the things that which you did very well. I hope you noticed in that video that you were, even when you were thinking, you did not look up or kind of lose focus or eye contact. One of the things I
There was
told
just a
you is
bit
that
of it.
it, yes, but
Yes.
to the extent where it is habitual in the conversation.
Okay.
Yes. And so we are not, like we said, we're not expecting perfection, but it's something that um, not every time you're asked a question, you start looking up to think. It happens
Mhm.
sometimes, but it's not enough for it to look like it's a habit. This is what she does, or she's evading eye contact. Your eye contact, your engagement in the whole presentation was very solid and it was realistic. Now, one of the things that you can help or use to deal with repetition is silence, quietness. And you used it quite a few. If you notice, there were times where when you were thinking, you actually went quiet to allow yourself to gather your thoughts. Even mid sentence, you would stop, or maybe after making a sentence, you stop, gather your thoughts, and speak. That is one of the most powerful tools when it comes to communication, where you do not fear silence. The
Okay.
way that, for instance, if I ask a question and you will continue to finish your notes, taking note and making sure that you've understood the question, other people
I
would
I
feel that is
I
okay.
I wanted to ask on that one as well,
Yeah.
where you are asked a question and there's that moment where you're quiet.
Mm,
They've finished asking the question, and now they're waiting for you to start talking, but you're still.
mm,
How long should that moment be? Because I experienced one case where I was the chairperson for an interview, and this lady, after being asked, she paused. She paused. We had to ask her, like, "Are you going to start saying something?" She didn't answer. She was just writing. Like, okay, so maybe 2 minutes. Then that's when she started talking. But then I know I can't take that long. But how long should my pause be as I'm taking notes? Because
right.
again, I get
So,
thinking that, okay, is they're waiting for me because they're quiet and I'm
mm,
writing. So I'm thinking if they're waiting, maybe they're getting irritated, or so my mind is telling me quickly start responding.
so it's a double-edged sword, right? In the sense that you cannot wait too long to respond to an answer. But it is also an understanding of the fact that you want to answer these questions effectively. So the time frame, I wouldn't say maybe give yourself 3 seconds or 5 seconds. Ideally, what you are doing as you're taking notes is taking the key elements of the question so that you can be able to address them effectively. All right. And so the 2 minutes that you are mentioning, yes, is a bit long, but there's no harm in you being able to finish off notes. In as much as people be like, why is she taking notes? What? No, it is one of the things that I felt will give you a unique edge in the sense that you'll be able to deal with the questions more effectively, where you have laid down the key elements of the question as you were listening. And so to kind of kill the space, if you feel, okay, I'm taking too long, you can say thank you as you are writing, or thank you for that question, but you're writing. And so I would like to tackle that particular question in the following manner. So there are filler statements that you can make as you are finishing off your points, or allow for silence. Silence, we fear it so much because it is awkward. But I'll tell you something. Silence also is a power play. If you've ever walked into a room, for instance, imagine you're walking into a superior's office, and when you walk in, they are quiet. It puts you in a very awkward position. You don't know whether to sit, to stand. It's a power dynamic. And so, in as much as people might seem like okay, they are frustrated, or some people might be, she's wasting time. She's what? If you are comfortable with silence, comfortable with those quiet moments, it means that you're not being intimidated into answers. You're not being intimidated into certain things. You are there to communicate value. And in order for you to do that effectively, you must be able to attack the question you are given as effectively as you need to. And so, yes, take your time in the sense that take the notes. Don't go beyond, let me say, up to 10 seconds, maybe 5 to 6 seconds while you're finishing off. That's enough time for you to have collected the few ideas that you need in order for you to respond. But it's not something that you should fear. Just because you frustrate someone in an interview doesn't mean you won't be successful in that interview. What will govern your success in that interview is your capacity to communicate value beyond every other individual that walks in. And so whatsoever tools you have at your disposal to do that, you cannot then dismiss them because of maybe conventional, like we already know, not everyone take notes. You might be the only one who's being interviewed who will take notes. But just the same way that you're taking notes may frustrate one interview member, the other person will look at you and see, wow, she's so organized. She wants to make sure she has understood the question and she wants to be able to deliver according to the question's demands. And so, what you are trying to establish at the end of the day is not their perception, but rather you want to leave an impression of value. And so what we have decided is that these are the tools that you have in your toolkit that will allow you to do that effectively. Take note, understand the question, and be able to deal with the question effectively. So yeah, you take your notes. You can say thank you even as you are finishing off the last few tidbits that you are doing, but it's not something to be afraid of, because for you it will ensure that maybe you don't have to ask the interviewers to repeat the question. Imagine they have a very complex question. They've even told themselves that, yeah, this is the question where we'll trap all of them. And it's a very multi-layered question. For you, because you are taking notes, nothing will trip you up to the point where they're like, all of them, they answered this and this part of the question, but they left this out. The reason is, depending on how long a question is, remember, this is a high pressure situation. And so if there are situations where your brain can betray you is in high pressure situations, right? So something that you know and understand very well, you find that you're not able to communicate effectively just because you were under pressure. So they ask, imagine a question, three-layered question. All right, Barbara, you understand that you have leadership capacity and you've been operating in the space this long. I want you to first of all tell us why your experience is relevant. And secondly, in that experience, identify two things that you have done in that 20 years that speaks to the fact that you're not just a member of ZRA, but you contributed to key developmental strategies that have grown the authority. And once you're done with that, I would want you to give us one strategy that you can do. Now, you tackle that question the way some of us like to answer questions. All right, thank you so much. And then you start. You talk about your 20 years, talk about your 20 years, you do well. And then you start to remember, okay, what was the next part of the question? Okay, two things. You mentioned the fact that I brought this innovation, I brought that innovation. And then now you have to remember the last thing, and for the life of you can't remember. And then you submit, or you ask them, sorry, what was the last part of the question? Just that, a lot of just that can be the thing that turns off an interviewer towards you. Say, I was very clear with that question. How come she's asking for me to repeat? And maybe they said it as a response to something you said, so they don't remember also the question. So now it is an awkward position. But for you who's taken note, you're able to say, and for the last part of the question, this is how I would engage with it and what. So the time it took for you to take note is the reason why you are able to sufficiently respond to the question that has been thrown on the table. And so that time, even though it might seem like it's dead weight, it's quiet, or it's empty space, it is the tool, it is the relevance that gives you the capacity to attack and to devour each question effectively. So much so. So much that you can get to the end and say, and just as a bonus tip or a bonus answer to what you have said, one of the things that brings all these elements together is the fact that myself and what I have been able to accomplish here at ZRA is because the authority opens doors for me to learn and to acquire qualifications through this and these programs, and therefore I can stand confidently having been able to do this and knowing that I can be able to achieve and contribute going forward, right? But to do that, the clarity of the question must be first established. And so it's easy, yes, for someone to say, that I think it will take away from your capacity. But because your agenda is to communicate value, your agenda is to leave an impression of the fact that you are here and you understand why you are here and the things that you can be able to deliver. The idea of taking note cannot be overemphasized, because then you will not miss anything. To the extent where if you are interrupted and someone says, oh, I would want you to answer this just because of something you said. If you're interrupted and then someone sends you in another direction with the question, you can tell them, I would like to complete the response according to the question I was answered previously. I was only able to do one or two. There's a third element that I would want to address.
Okay.
Someone who hasn't taken notes cannot be able to deal with that. Taken off in a tangent and you go with the questions they're asking you. But what that does for you, it means you have the capacity to consistently be in charge, to bring them back to the agenda, even if it's set by them. You have the capacity to do that. So, thank you for that question. Allow me to finish the last element of the question that was asked before by the previous interviewer, because there is this element that I would want to clarify as well. And then I'll be able to take on that question. Just those things, just those limited few things can be able to establish an understanding and can be able to set you apart. Oh my good, that shows that you are structured, you are orderly, you understand the flow of things, and you're in charge. All right.
Okay.
And so we're talking,
Mm.
yes, we're talking about the repetition that we find ourselves, especially when we're dealing with anxiety or trying to figure out a point. Silence.
Mhm.
Silence is your friend. Silence is your friend. Allow yourself to think, allow yourself to communicate. And even if it happens, I will tell you, you notice that yes, it might happen, but it does not take away from the point if you are able to land it effectively. And so you might have
Okay.
said a few things repeatedly, but as long as you are able to bring it home, it is a very negligible thing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember
Okay.
that even at the end, you remember even at the end, you were saying that the way you ended it, you mentioned that this is why I am one of, and then you quickly said, actually, I am the right person for the particular position. Remember that?
Yes.
Yes, that is okay. That shows that
Mm.
in your response, you are communicating, you are thinking through what you are saying. In as much as it might seem like, oh my goodness, I stuttered, I did not communicate well. No, it's something that can be brushed off as long as you are able to land your plane effectively.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense. So that particular, but you
Mhm.
notice, I want to also notice that in that particular exchange, you didn't take a lot of time in your responses. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did, especially the questions that were following after the first one.
Hmm.
And I think it's something that has been happening where when you are just starting to ask me questions, the first one I'll take longer, but as you proceed to ask, then I start time management becomes good. And the last time I
Yes.
think I also asked a question to say how do I make sure that the first question does not, even if it's a question that I don't know, but it doesn't throw me
Yes.
off. I should be able to handle it. And so, what I will add to this is how do I make sure that I balance off? Not that the first question is too long, maybe even lacks that proper structure. Then, as I'm going
Hmm.
deeper, I'm now becoming solid.
Mm.
It's something that I don't want to take a chance on. And so I just want to be solid from the start, whether it's something I understand, I don't know, but the moment I start talking, I just want to have a firm ground.
Awesome. So that takes us to the question I asked you in the chat earlier on, to say what are the things that you believe about yourself.
Okay. Mhm.
And I'll tell you the importance of that, because
Mhm.
what you believe about yourself is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe that you do not start
Mhm.
strong,
Mhm.
that is how it will work out
Power of the tongue.
all the time.
Okay.
All the time. So
All right.
so the
Mhm.
ideas around our capacities to do whatever we need to do is rooted in what we have believed about ourselves. What do you know to be true about yourself? What are the
Mhm.
things that you have convinced yourself of that you might need to revisit, whether positive or negative? The reason
Okay.
is that when you walk into a space, how well you are able to navigate that space has got very little to do with the space itself, but everything to do with the perception and perspective you bring into the space. I'll give you an
Okay.
example. When I do self discovery, one of the things I like to say is be Nigerian about your life. The
Mhm.
reason is that the more you encounter Nigerians, the more you will find that Nigerians believe in their capacity in ways that are unbelievable. A Nigerian will
Somebody
be
was
asked to say again.
somebody was telling me that you should be like the Copalas,
Yes. In our
Copperbelt people.
context
Yes.
is the Kopala guys.
Mm-hmm.
Ngati kuli bantu bamazipakamo, it's guys from the copper belt.
Mm-hmm.
they have this capacity to throw themselves in the deep end and expect that they are going to swim. You ask, for
Okay.
instance, if you have a helper who is a garden boy, who is from the copper
Mm-hmm.
belt, and you tell them, eh, vamaiko, tifuna tifakeko solar pa Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Madam, niviziva hivyo, nzakwanisa, nzapezekapo, mzaona, tiviziva, ningachisi.
Yes.
And people who are able to put themselves in spaces like more often than not, they have the capacity, because they believe something about themselves, they have the
Mm-hmm.
capacity to show up and actually deliver because of the fact that they believe in themselves.
Okay.
And so, one of the things I would want you to know, what our rehearsal, what our practice has done, is bring us to the place where the capacities necessary are there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when you asked the question about starting strong, and I mentioned to you that first and foremost, your frameworks will help because they allow you to build a skeleton. So we said we build the
Mm-hmm.
foundation with the first. So it doesn't have to have too much flesh because
Mm-hmm.
the question may come in a way that is um, just briefly introduce yourself to us. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have to make that briefly, right? Or as a way to begin this interview, would like you to tell us as best as you can. Tell us about yourself. What are the things that constitute who Barbara is? That's an opportunity for that particular response to be a bit more comprehensive, but still it
Mm-hmm.
must be bare bones. And so, talking about yourself, what will help, particularly when it comes to setting the stage for an interview, is that likely some form of that question will start the process. And so,
Okay.
how we had framed it, remember we spoke about one, tell them the reason why you are in that room.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you in front of them? Why is Barbara qualified to be there? And so we framed that and said, okay, you talk about your experience, where you started from, and the things that led you into this particular space. And so when you know what it is that you're going to talk about, remember, preparedness makes confidence automatic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you know that the beginning of every conversation, especially an interview like this, is going to,
Mm-hmm.
in some way, shape, or form, require that you speak about yourself. And we said the question you answer there is why you are in the room. That is the opportunity that that question opens for us. And so you choose, all right, I'll tell them why I'm in the room. I'll tell them the credentials and opportunities that brought me into this space. I'll also speak about one key victory, one key thing that allows me to actually leverage in order for me to establish myself in this space. And then I'll bring all those things together. Now, depending on how the space is structured, in the sense that, for instance, they say briefly, whatever the case may be, you just start with what it is that you have and you submit, knowing that the other elements you'll be able to put flesh to in the conversation at whatever level you have the opportunity to do. Like I mentioned, even
Mm-hmm.
as we go back through the video of our short engagement, the way that you
Mm-hmm.
brought in your credentials, it was not a question about credentials. The way you brought in the credibility to your capacities in the spaces you've operated in. Even at the end, I remember telling you that there are certain things that showed up at the very end of the interview. Like, for instance, that's where you brought about the operation in both the manual and the digital space. It could have shown
Mm-hmm.
up anywhere else in the conversation, but you brought it as one of the punches towards the end of that engagement, which is great. And so,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what it is you want to communicate will help you to be strong from the very beginning. How prepared are you to talk about yourself? How prepared are you to talk about your credentials? How prepared are you to talk about your qualifications? That will be able to educate how strong you're able to come in. Because Me as an interviewer, for instance, can be like, Barbara, I was looking at um, your CV, and I noticed that you mentioned that you have mentored over 5,000 young people across Africa in their careers. I would like you to tell us about that as we begin this interview.
Mm,
And then you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Now I'm ready to answer the question, tell us about yourself. But
mm,
just because they've asked you about a specific thing
mm,
that speaks to these 5,000 students, it's still a question about you. Tell
mm,
us what this. And so you tell them, look, I'd like to refer to the fact that I joined ZRA at entry level over 2 decades ago. And as I navigated the space, I began to find opportunities to improve and to grow myself. And as I engaged with opportunities and with courses and programs like this and this, I was able to grow myself to the place where I found the capacity to help others grow. And as I continued to grow myself, even as I engaged with my MBA, as I was able to get my ACCA, what that did was it gave me greater capacity to empower and to help other people to grow and be able to operate more effectively in the spaces they found themselves in. Today, I sit in front of you having not only grown from an entry level clerk to the managerial position I hold now, but because of my experience, the 20 years I've engaged with the authority, it has made me relevant beyond the authority. And because of that, I was then able to plug myself into a program like you've spoken of, where I've been able to mentor over 5,000 young people according to what I have
mm,
learned and the skills I have developed and how to navigate your career effectively. Today, after 2 decades, I'm able to sit in senior management and I'm able to prop myself into a space where I know I can be able to deliver even in higher positions. So the question was, tell us about these 5,000 that you mentored. The answer
mm.
still was, why are you in the room?
Yes. Okay.
So no matter how the question comes, no matter how the question comes, you
Mhm.
knowing what you are there to communicate will help you attack it in every direction it shows up.
Okay.
And because you would have answered that question like that, how do they come back to you and say, okay, tell us about yourself? You've already given relevance to that particular question before they answered it or asked it,
Mhm.
rather, right? And so it becomes, like I said, your preparedness will help you navigate the conversation so effectively that it will be easy to even move them out of the structured questions they have set, because a
Mhm.
well-placed response will answer even maybe other questions that were ready to follow.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It does. It does.
Yeah. So how the question comes, if like you said, even if you're not ready for the question or you don't know the question, as long as
Mhm.
you're able to pick out the key elements of that question, you are then able to draw from the wealth of your preparedness to be able to
Mhm.
establish a response that still qualifies all the elements that you are there to communicate. Why you are in the
Mhm.
room, what are the things that support your presence in the room when it comes to your credentials, your capacities, and the innovations that you've brought into the space. So much so that
Mhm.
even if they come to a place where you've run out of time and they're like, oh, um, we've run out of time, we had a few other questions, but I think we have captured enough. You should have still spoken about the innovations you have brought into the space, about what you
Mhm.
can be able to deliver going forward, why
Mhm.
you are uniquely positioned to take that space and continue a
Mhm.
vision and distribute a vision that can drive this particular department forward. So
Mhm.
that even when they sit and say, oh, we never got the chance to ask Barbara about the strategies she would put in place. But as she spoke about her vision. She spoke about the fact that She has a knowledge of the manual and the digital space that allows her to begin to drive an agenda where these spaces communicate more effectively. The systems themselves and how the manual space can be handled more effectively in order for it to completely be eradicated. I remember she even mentioned about how the authority in Kenya has been able to go fully digital, or what they've been able to achieve by doing certain things. How did you do that? Because your preparedness, in the sense that how you bring flesh to the conversation, whether it's in problem solving, whether it is in change management, or the word there is conflict resolution, you were able to bring in key elements that satisfy the body of the interview.
Okay.
And do it quickly. Do it quickly, do it precisely, and do it in a way that still maintains the flow of the interview. And that's why one of the things that I mentioned when I was talking about how you answered in that video is that there's a space, like you said, after the first question, where you come into your own, how the answers begin to flow in a way that allows the interview to take. It's like the you drive the flow from then on. The questions and the answers are flowing almost in conversation, where, as an interviewer, you can find yourself getting to a point where you are enjoying, because this particular person is. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. And so when you get to the place where you're pulling from the wealth of knowledge that you put together for this presentation, you find that it is easier for the
You're breaking
conversation to
again.
flow. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Am I okay? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So what I was saying was that the
Wow.
conversation gets into the flow when you get to a place where you are now pulling from the knowledge you carry to answer the question.
You're cutting
Oh
and
no.
cutting.
Oh no, no, no,
Right
no,
now?
no.
Now I can hear you.
I'm fine now? Oh, great. Yes, I was saying that the conversation goes into a flow when you begin to pull the responses from knowledge, and it doesn't seem like you are planning them out or trying to get them through. Wow. Let me move to here. Am I better now?
Come on.
I was saying that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't know what's happening with the internet now.
Can see you.
You can hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that when you get to a certain place where the answers from the questions begin to flow, even as you are taking your notes and communicating, as long as there is a flow, you find that the interview begins to take a specific direction. My goodness. My goodness. Okay.
Okay, now you're okay. You keep on fluctuating. Yes.
Okay. So I'll ask you to just quickly answer for me the question that I asked you. What are the things that you believe about yourself?
Wow. Come again?
What are the questions you believe about yourself? What are the things you believe about yourself, rather?
Oh, okay. I'm sure you're making reference to what you had conversations.
Yes. Yes.
Is that correct, Coach?
Yes, yes.
Okay. One one thing I know about myself is that I am, I don't know the word, but to say like I'm very like very clear. If I want to say something, it has I want to bring it out in very clear way. Or if I'm doing something, I want it to be done in a perfect way. That I know I am organized. I know I have the confidence. I know that I'm a person who, when I'm in the group of people and I'm talking, I'm easily like likable. Are you getting me?
Mhm.
No,
Yes,
yes.
I am.
I think those are the things I know. I'm very sure about myself.
All right. I like that because one, you've spoken about the fact that you want to communicate clearly. Two, you mentioned that you are organized. You can hear me?
Yes.
Good. You are organized. Three, you are a kind of person who would want things that you are doing to be done right. Perfectly is the word you've used because you are a perfectionist.
Oh, goodness.
And the last thing
That
is
has,
that you spoke about.
that has just become,
Hello, I'm saying you said you'd want things to be done
hello.
perfectly. Oh, hi, 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 hi.
So it's really dragging, like you're dragging, talking.
I have no idea because I can hear you very well. Right, can you hear me now?
Maybe now, yes.
Okay, so I was saying that you mentioned that you like things to be done the way they're supposed to be done, and you spoke about likability.
I spoke up.
I'm saying you spoke about likability. Can you hear me? Let me maybe move to the living room here.
Oh, good.
Just a minute. There are the lights. There we go. All right. Okay. Am I better here?
Better sound, yes.
Okay, good. All right. We'll use
You
this
are
side
looking
because
for
I think.
hotspots.
Imagine. Imagine. But
I think there it's better.
okay, great. The four things that you've mentioned, you spoke about the fact that one, you want to communicate clearly. Two, you are organized. Organized, right? The third thing you mentioned is that you like when you're doing things for them to be done properly. Perfect. And the last thing is you spoke about likability. And so, going into the room, I hope you can clearly hear me, right?
Going into the room.
Yes. So when you go into the room, use these elements of what you believe about yourself. They are what you take in as the things that will cause you to shine. And that's why you taking your notes and making sure that your answers are organized is key. One, two, As you prepare now, knowing that we're almost there, your ideas are around how do I say things better? What do I say in order for me to come across to state that my experience is relevant? My MBA is relevant. My ACCA is relevant. How do I showcase the fact that I have done these things and they make sense? And so communicating clearly. The third thing, like you said, perfection. Perfection. And so, as a perfectionist, everything about you must speak on that day. Everything about you, from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, everything about you must speak. You are there for them to know that Barbara is the right person for this job. And so you make sure that, like you mentioned, your tonality, your speaking, your projection, there was nothing so far, at least as we've made progress, there's nothing in your voice that speaks or gives away that you are nervous, that says that you are scared. It's always come across as
Okay.
confidently, right? Can
No,
you
I
hear
was
me?
saying, okay.
Yes, yes. And so your voice and everything else that speaks to your vocal image, your physical, your visual image, all these things. As Barbara the perfectionist, you bring those things to life on the day of the interview and truly believe and exhibit, walk in knowing that I am likable. Let that be something that you're walking into the room with clearly, knowing that, okay, as I enter, I don't know about everybody else, but my experience is that I carry likability. Right? Wow, the internet has really gone down the drain.
Maybe you can send a voice, maybe,
Yeah.
to conclude,
Let me do that. Yeah. Let me do that. Maybe let
that
me
you
try
can pray.
to, yeah, let me call you on WhatsApp and let's pray, and then I can send a voice note to
All
conclude
right.
and set you up. All right.
Okay. So we cut.